Again, my name is Mavis, and I am an educational, I want to say professional. Um, and I have been in the space of international education pretty much my entire life. Through the course of doing some international advertising with an agency that I founded, um, I get more involved in housing the students because I felt that housing them was such an important part of their cultural environment, home. And so I ended up forming ED Homestay, which was founded in 2013. So I've been in the international student housing market for approximately 13 years.
Yeah, so basically, being a leader in your industry for so many years, I wanted just to see what were did you have your own personal code of ethics that you had, and how did it influence your leadership style in the industry of students?
Sure. Well, I think one of my personal code of ethics really has always been about integrity, responsibility, respect, and transparency. Just all of those things I think are very important because you're dealing with children. So you've got to be as honest as possible. You have to be very transparent as possible. And you've got to treat everything with respect and transparency. You just have to create some code of ethics. So I live by those four standards: integrity, responsibility, transparency, and respect.
That's perfect. Yeah, especially in this industry. And
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And with your ethical principle guide, how did it guide your decision when working with international students, families, and institution and partners?
Right. Well, I think the big one is always safety. You've got to be sure that students are safe. They have to be that's it. That's the number one thing is they must be safe in their home because in whatever situation they are, um, they got to be safe and and their welfare comes first. So you've got to make sure that the home is safe, that they have a safe environment within the members of the home, and that's the number one thing I really think about is their safety, student safety.
Yeah, we had many conversations around that, which is so important.
Yes.
Yes, and how do you ensure the cultural sensitivity and equality that are in the forefront of your ethics framework?
Well, I think one of the things we have to do is always train our host families prior to their taking a student in on we usually know where the students are coming from. Um, so we always want to make sure that we take the responsibility of training the families in cultural sensitivity. You know, for some, it is very important that every culture is different, every country is different, and what is appropriate isn't. So we always become very trained in the cultural sensitivities of a given region so that we train the family so that they can be respectful with the student accordingly.
Wow, that's perfect. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service.
Sure, sure.
And in your career, in whichever industry, it really doesn't matter. But have you ever been in a tense period of heat, or a situation or time when you're faced with a very difficult ethical dilemma in your role, and how and what made it particularly challenging within that situation?
I think, yes, one of the things we found was families that have been with us 2 and 3 years, sometimes we feel that they're good forever, if you will, but everybody's family dynamics change. Sometimes there is a new husband coming into the home. Sometimes there is another, the dynamics of the family um, group dynamics change. So we had to once, when a family did get a new partner into the home, that we had to remove the students because we felt that the students' demeanor changed so much drastically that this student particularly was started getting introverted and was very outgoing. And so we had to make the decision to remove that student because we noticed that the dynamics had changed in the home, even though all the steps were put in place to make sure that their background checked out, but there was a dynamic going on in the home where the child was feeling uncomfortable. So we had to make a change and remove that student and put them in a single parent home because it was a female and she was very afraid of being in a home with a dominant male figure as part of the home structure. So that was very interesting for us.
You were able to see through that, like from the behavior of the student too, and recognizing that to like basically facilitate the situation that you're in.
Correct. And that's one of the things that we also do in training our law. This is this usually happens with long-term student placement. Short-term student placement, it's usually 2-3 weeks, and it's a little different dynamic. But for long-term students, we are able to, by every month, checking in with the host family and also checking in with the student and even the school to make sure that all areas are checking well. Because if all of a sudden the school says there's something going on because the student now is very sleepy in the morning class, before they were very bright, now they are, going in themselves as opposed to being extroverted. They're becoming introverted. Something's going on. But we wouldn't know that unless we are checking monthly with the student and the host family. And what we try and do is, if we have to see the student every month, we don't do it all in the same week. We say, okay, week 1, we're going to check with the student. Week 2, we'll check with the school. Week 3, we'll check with the host family, and then we'll know if there is something going on throughout the month. So those are some of the things that we really take into consideration as part of the integrity process that we go in making sure that the students are safe at all times.
Oh, wow. And have you ever witnessed an unethical practice in this process of your career, whether it's with placements or such as student behavior or family or anything like that? Have you ever witnessed an unethical practice that was taking place?
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is that sometimes we've got to be careful where the agents, and those are the ones that bring in students, as you know, Anne, have oversold what we do, or maybe not been, oh yeah, you're going to get a great family and they're going to drive them around in a Lamborghini and they're all rich, and then
Cool.
Right, they're all going to have swimming pools and they're all in America, so they're all rich. Whatever it be, you've got to be so careful that the child's expectation is, and that you present the expectation to the parents before they get here. We've been doing this for a while, and there's always somebody that says, but I expected a private bathroom. I expected a private, sometimes. So we've got to be very careful that whoever is selling, if we're not the person directly speaking to a host family, to a family, that the agent or the person properly, ethically reports what the child is going to get into, so that we don't have to deal later with a very upset child that is, 2 days away, 20 hours away from their parent, and they're, and they can't communicate what's going on. So that's what we've got to be very careful, that everything that we sell is being resold by the agent or the person that is communicating to the parents correctly.
That's true. I guess you could say the ethical issue could be is witnessing the in-between person who is upselling or downselling or not being
correct,
or not being honest, and that
correct, or not being accurate. That's, I think, the perfect word is accuracy, because that way you're not misinforming or offending, if you will, the agent. But we just want to make sure that the information that we provide is accurately being delivered. So I think that's a really good word to use there.
I think that's a good place to stop too, because I think that basically what it really comes down to is, in this, it is very highly ethical industry in a sense of transparency, honesty.
Yes, that's very true, Anne.
Integrity and all that combined, then that will keep the momentum going for the student and students.
That is right.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything you want to add? But thank you so much for your time. And
Oh, you bet, Ann. And anytime you need anything else, please call me. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have. Thank you very
thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much, Mavis.